Welcome back, everybody, to the Attract and Stand Out podcast. It's Darlene Hawley, and I'm so thrilled to have you here today. I have Maura Barclay with me. She is a Neuro Facilitation Specialist. She's also the author and Transformational Leadership Consultant. As a thought leader, she is best known for her groundbreaking work in the intuitive empowerment field with her book, Unbreakable Women, Compassionate Self-Defense and Intuitive Empowerment Programs, which she has been presenting for nearly 2 decades across the nation to federal agencies, Fortune 500 companies, as well as the U.S. military. Maura, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Darlene. It's so good to be here.
Thank you. I'm so glad to have you here. And I can't wait to dive in today and just learn a little bit more about you and hear your story of how you started your business and came to the work that you're doing today. But before we dive too far in, I just have been wanting to start the show with just like a simple check-in. How are you doing? How's things going? I know life has been a little bit crazy the past year. How are you?
Well, I'm extraordinarily well. I have had the best success in my entire career in this past year. COVID has been an enormous gift and has only been positive for me. I happen to be, no one would believe this, but I am a bit of an introvert. When I'm not teaching, when I teach or I coach, I actually get out of the way for source energy to come through. So I don't feel like I'm doing a lot. And when I'm not doing this, I'm sitting on my couch, just kind of looking at my plants, and I'll be there for hours doing that. So COVID gave me an excuse to be home more and not have to say no to social gatherings because they just couldn't happen. So, it's no big deal. I don't mean to say that I'm like agrophobic or anything, but yeah, I'm very well, and my business is moving incredibly fast, and I've never had so much success. So you're meeting me at a very auspicious time in my life, and I really appreciate you inviting me to chat with you.
Yeah, I love that you share that because I think so many people can relate to being introverts. I'm an ambivert. I'm like in between. I can definitely be on and be high energy and be like a social butterfly, and I love to go to parties and entertain. But as soon as I'm done, like I hit that point and I'm like, oh, now I just need to go home and snuggle up on the couch, read a good book, stare at the plants, lay out in the backyard, like whatever it is, and have like that alone time just as much. I'm like, my favorite way to relax since COVID hit has been taking a hot bath almost every single night because the kids are home with me 24/7. They're still virtually schooling. We're recording this the beginning of June. We have one more day of school. Tomorrow, summer break begins, and I can't wait. But for a while, I was like, well, how am I going to get some space just for me, just to have some of that unwind time? And so I found locking myself in the bathroom in a hot tub was the only way it was going to happen.
Oh, that's yummy. I love it.
Yeah. So I'm glad that you're doing amazing. And I want to hear a little bit about you. Tell me how you came to the work that you do and what kind of got you started in this work.
Well, I will give you the Cliff Notes. It is a bit of a journey. So it all starts with my family of origin, which is an important detail because the majority, if not all of the work that I do with my clients is centered around making peace with the things that they learned from their family of origin, because it is the source of hardship, it is the source of limiting beliefs, and the source of being pinched off from the abundance that they seek. So my story also begins with my family of origin. I came from an abusive home where I didn't feel safe emotionally or physically. So I became a warrior to keep myself safe in the world because I grew up thinking the world wasn't a safe place. And I also really didn't have a lot of self-esteem because of, feeling like, well, I must deserve it somehow. What have I done wrong? So I did a lot of unusual things in order, as you do when you are a warrior. I became a firefighter for several years. I was a 2-time title-winning natural bodybuilder. And also I'm very big into martial arts. And all of this is very warrior-centric. And it's also in service to my former need for external validation. For example, the firefighting, I didn't know how to feel like a hero, so I did like a hero. I thought, well, maybe my work will help me feel more worthy. And it really did not. So eventually, and I got in and out of inappropriate, not inappropriate, but like partners that weren't good for me because I was trying to prove my worth through relationships, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, right?
Oh, yeah.
So the wrong relationship for the wrong reason, fear-based reasoning. It never winds up good. So through decades of suppressed anger and not listening to my heart, I opened the door for cancer in 2016. And I had an enormous inoperable blood tumor, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma tumor pressing into my heart. No accident there. And cancer taught me how to surrender. Cancer was my greatest teacher and the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. It helped me soften and listen to my intuition and my guides, which now are the life source of my business, because I get my guidance from source. It's not me. I don't know about anything. My puny little human brain. But when you are a channel for source, you have access to all of the genius, right? So that started me on the intuitive empowerment road, which you mentioned my book, Compassionate Self-Defense and Empowerment. I started empowering women because in martial arts, I really saw this stuff is not going to work for women. They're telling women to do things that are just, that's not how we roll. We're not going to be gouging people's eyes out. And I recognized, wait a minute, we actually as women have so many powerful strengths and skills to keep us safe before anything happens. So I introduced women to the power of their intuition, the science of their intuition. Everything I do is evidence-based to the degree that it can be. And I did a lot of work in the mind-body space as a therapeutic yoga teacher trainer and an embodied anatomy instructor. So there was this sort of cocktail of embodied spiritual wholeness, empowerment. And I recognized as I was doing this work, I feel like I'm coming at this issue at the same level of consciousness that is creating this issue. And I recognized really quickly, and this is actually part of the cancer helped me see this, helping women learn how to defend themselves is not going to create a more kind and just culture, human culture. However, if I can enroll people in their worthiness, that is going to create a kind and just human culture, because worthy men don't abuse people. Worthy men aren't greedy. They don't steal. They don't commit these crimes. This is about healing the wounds of men and women together and separately. And that is what Soulful Leader, which is my one of my signature programs. Soulful Leader is about that. So I was able to come in contact with non-physical guidance that helps me facilitate change in people. That's the neuro facilitation piece. Through the yoga teacher training, I recognized how to help people build new neural pathways. I mentored a lot of teachers on their journeys, and now I mentor transformational coaches and high, what would we call it? Like high value leaders. These type of people. When I work privately, I only work with a handful of people. It is very expensive because the work is very profound, and they need to be in a position of leadership, of somehow culture makers, influencers. That's kind of my passion, because I want them to be able to create a culture of, worthiness and respect and kindness for themselves and others.
Yeah.
And the coaching piece of it is, oh gosh, I want to make it as accessible as possible, because transformational coaches are going to help shape and change the world as they interact with so many people who need their help. So that is a much lower cost. It is a fraction of my private work, because I want to keep the barrier of entry very low so I can help as many transformational coaches, help as many people as possible. That way they're kind of my force multipliers for doing good in the world. Yeah.
It's like the ripple effect that goes out from there, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all that. I can imagine how it's a journey that as you transitioned and built your business and found all these pieces and pulled them together and wove them in such a beautiful way that you're able to show up and support your clients and then help other coaches go out into the world and do the work that they're doing. It's been a great journey, I'm sure.
It has. I'm so grateful for every single piece of it. And sometimes I just look around and I pinch myself and I feel so blessed that I have the courage to trust, and the path that I had to walk in order to have the courage to trust is one
Yeah.
of the paths that I help so many people with.
Yeah. What was it that like catapulted you into doing this type of coaching? Was it something specific? Because I know you said you were a firefighter and you were doing all these different jobs for a while, and then you switched gears. Was there a specific moment or a time where you realized that you needed to do something different for yourself to move forward, or was it during that time of when you were diagnosed with cancer that really it came out?
That's such a good question, Darlene. You ask really good questions. So, as I was in every job I've ever had, I always felt like there was a very large untapped reservoir of knowledge and ability that I just had to kind of put on the shelf. And I never liked that feeling. And I was always very entrepreneurial within every job I had, which was not easy in the fire service, let me tell you.
Probably not.
Not at all. So when I became an entrepreneur and I was doing I was doing speaking, and because I was a curriculum creator, so like I really enjoyed doing that piece, developing curriculum and presenting it. I worked for the US military as a consultant and Fortune 500 companies as a speaker and consultant. And as I was doing that work, I loved the big groups, and my goal was always, well, this should tell you something. When I was speaking to a group, my intention was always to create transformation in the room, even from the very beginning. And I thought, well, if I don't do that, at the very least, it will be excellent. Like excellent was not what I was aiming for at all. It was always transformation. And I never really understood why or how that worked. Not until I got cancer.
Yeah.
But as I transitioned, I recognized that having the power to make myself so sick from not listening to my heart, denying my truth, suppressing my anger, it showed me how powerful I am to do other things, manifest positive things, manifest wellness, keep my body super healthy. And I thought, you know what? I'm never, ever, ever again going to do anything that is not in service of my soul. And I didn't know what I was going to do, Darlene. I had no idea. I had actually closed my consultancy because a Fortune 500 CEO offered me an awesome job. And she's like, make your own, here's a 6-figure salary, make your own position. So I shut my consultancy and took that job. And then she got managed out of the company, and they managed me out shortly thereafter. So I had nothing. I shut my, as you know, so I'm like, I'm never doing this again. And the thing that I love the most about that job was the one-on-one time I got with the people who came to me with issues. Yeah. That mentoring. I loved it. I'm like, I think I want to do that, but I don't know how I can make a living at it. So I just kept following clues and being open and being like, well, I don't know, I'm going to try this. Well, I don't know, I'm going to try that. If it doesn't work, that's the feedback I need to look over here. I hired my first coach in 2019, I think. She was $10,000. I had never paid. And I went from never paying anything to paying 10 grand. I was like, here, like,
I'm going big.
I'm going big. This is kind of my personality. Like I'm going big. If it's a miserable failure, then that's my cue that there's another job that's waiting for me, that's perfect for me, where I can use all my skills. And the job and the coaching that I got was so perfect that within my first launch, I think it was actually my second launch in 2 months, I hit 5 figures for the first time. And I was surprised as anybody, because I was like, I don't do sales calls. Here's how much my program is. If you've all said that you've had, transformation occur just in my workshop, imagine what we could do if we partner. So it was in that moment, I was like, this is it, man. I love this. I didn't realize that I could create curriculum that would help people transform just like this, like without not even one-to-one.
Yeah.
So, but that's why my one-to-one work is so much more expensive, because it's so much more focused. It's so much more profound. Well, that's not true. I can't say that, because I've had coaches come to me and say, you in 20 minutes, you gave me more clarity than in the last 20 years with all this crap and thousands of dollars, which is, again, not me. It's not me.
Yeah.
It's coaches are easy to coach. Individuals take more time. They just take more time.
Yeah.
And especially if they're in positions of leadership, they have a lot of knowing to unlearn.
Yes.
And right. So they have a lot of structure that needs to be loosened. That takes time and energy and focus. That's why they're more expensive, because coaches, I'm just like, here you go. And they're like, got it. Apply.
They've already done some of the foundational work.
They have. And I go so deep, so quick. That's the other thing is I like to, even though I work with my private clients mostly over the course of a year, because I want them to have sustainability. I want them to be on like total cruise control when they get out. Like you just release them into the water and they just swim away and it's effortless.
Yeah.
That does take a year with like super A-type, high achieving, like they think they know how to apply stuff, but they know how to apply the things they know. And I'm bringing them stuff that they haven't had before. So that takes time and money. But for my clients or my coaching clients, that whole piece that I just described, where it was during a launch and I was just so exhausted. I'm like, you know how much it is. Here's the info sheet. Get on my schedule if you want to work with me. I sold out. I never sold anything. I didn't have to sell because I refused to. I'm like, here's the stuff. You know, you like it. You know, it's working for you. Let's work together. They're like, okay. So I've never done a sales call. I only do enrollment calls. And that's actually my signature program for coaches. It's called Effortless Enrollment. And it just happened. Like it created itself. I just noticed that it was creating itself. I'm like, oh, I think this might be a thing. Okay, cool. All right, let's try it.
And it shows that you're in alignment with yourself in that situation as well. Like you're showing up, you're doing the work that you're loving to do, you're sharing it in a way that really is contagious and makes people go, ooh, like I want to hear more about what you're saying, Maura. Like tell me more. This is connecting in the way that it needs to. And then at that point, you don't have to actually sell anybody when you're helping them and you're showing them the way on the journey to get from where they're at today to where they actually want to go. Like that's the beautiful thing about our businesses. When we do it the right way and we have the right messaging and we show up as ourselves, like those dots get connected and people are like, okay, I'm in. How do I pay you? Let's move forward.
That's so true. And for people, and the thing is, like, I'm so glad you get it, Darlene. And I'm glad you're sharing that, because this needs to be shared with coaches so that they can show up as the soulful leaders that they are, so that they can attract their people, because so many people need their help.
Yeah.
So many people. And all they need to do is recognize what you just said. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, that's the work that I do with my clients, because I did it the hard way. I did it the opposite way more. The first 2 years in business, I was like, I'm a business coach and I can work with everybody and I can help everyone. And my messaging was super broad and didn't make any sense. And people were like, okay, you're amazing, Darlene, you're great, but I don't know what the heck you do. Who do I refer to you? How do I work with you? Like, I don't know what that looks like. And then at that 2-year mark, when I like sat down and had that come into Jesus moment, is what I like to call it, like where I just kind of broke down and was like, this is hard. It's like inconsistent. And I don't know whether I'm coming or I'm going, and I don't know what to do. And then I was like, oh, like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to work with? What is this? What do I want my business to look like for me first? And then when I started thinking about who my ideal clients were and pulled those pieces in, like all the dots connected. And I was like, oh, and then I started going to networking events, because this was back in 2007. That was my main source of networking, was actually in-person events, which now it's totally different in our online world. But people were like, oh, well, let me introduce you to this person and let me connect you with this person. Or, oh, I actually need somebody to help me with that. And I was like, wait a minute, it's working. Like I figured out what my secret sauce was and how I needed to show up and connect. And then it wasn't, you don't have to sell. I realized, I'm like, I didn't have to like get on a sales call and sell somebody into what it was going on. It was more of, are we a good fit to work together? Yeah, I think so. Here's how we can do that.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Or it was, we're actually not a good fit. I'm probably not the person to help you, but let me refer you to some other amazing person who would be the perfect person for you to connect with. And you're right. So many coaches and consultants and service-based entrepreneurs, when they start their business, they get so caught up in that sales part that they don't do anything with their business, kind of like I did the first 2 years. I'm glad you figured it out way quicker.
Yeah. I think it's because I'm a little bit older, perhaps. Like I'm 51, and something happens when you turn 50. You just don't have any F's to give. So I was just like, this is what's happening. I was, like I said, I was tired. I kind of turned into, what's her name? oh, I can't remember her name, but so my family's Jewish. They're all from New York. They're New York Jews.
Okay.
So Joy Behar, that's who I turn into.
Yeah.
When I get tired, I'm just like, so what? Who cares? You work with me or you don't? You already know. Get on my schedule or don't. So what? Who cares? So people really, the people who are called to work with me, really respond to that. And I'm not doing it to do. That's what's happening. So it was funny, but that
you're showing up as yourself, and that's what people connect with, though. I think that's the one thing. The other one thing that people don't do is they try to act like other people in the online space, and they emulate what other marketers are doing and how they're showing up, and it doesn't work for them. But when you show up as yourself and you just do like what feels natural and is you, people want that. People are like, oh, you're real. I get you. I see you. Like I can move forward with this. But when you can also tell, like when there's like that facade built up or someone's wearing a mask and you're like, well, do I really know you? Because if I meet you in person, I want to meet the same person I've been talking to on Zoom and connecting with in this online space. And so many people that I've met before COVID have been like, I've met them and I'm like, oh, like you're not quite what I thought. It's interesting. Where I hope that most people that meet me are like, okay, like you're the same in person, or if you're on video, or if I'm on a client call with you, I want to show up the same way.
Yeah.
You mentioned something a little bit ago about like, as you were transitioning into starting your own business, how you found that like you love the coaching piece, like you love that mentoring piece. And I totally relate and remember that having that same experience for myself, because my background is retail management. And I love the work that I did. I loved promoting my employees up in the company and doing like the HR and the training and the development. And it's funny, when I found business coaching, and I didn't even know what a business coach was when I took the interview, I just knew I didn't want to do retail management anymore. And I was on the phone learning about business coaching, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can get paid for like my favorite part about my job, like the stuff that I love doing. And I think that's like when you can find that strength in yourself and really pull that into your business, that's super powerful as well. Because when I did I took the leap and left retail management and became a business coach, I was like, I'm actually playing to my strength now. I'm doing like, instead of it being like 20% what I love, 80% what I didn't like in my career, now it was like 80% what I love in my business. And then there's like the little bit of paperwork and all the extra stuff that comes with it that is part of entrepreneurship as you're building your team, right? So I love that you were able to show up and really like recognize, like, this is my strength. This is I like to call it like a superpower almost, because you're doing the work that you love.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny that you inspired a memory when you talked about your retail management experience. When I was living in LA in 2004, 2005-ish, I was working in the fitness industry. I was a mind body teacher trainer, right? A therapeutic yoga teacher trainer. And I was also a personal trainer. So I had the occasion to, I had actually quite a few private clients that I would see regularly. And one woman just very frequently just wanted to chat. She wanted my reflection. She wanted my perspective. And I remember thinking, this is awesome, because I didn't know that I had perspective to give.
Yeah.
And once she helped me see the value of what I kind of just came by naturally. And that's before I knew how to get out of the way. Actually, I think I was doing it unconsciously, like it just happened. But now I do it consciously, and I'm really connected and identified with. There's a physical sensation that I get when I'm plugged in, so to speak. Well, I mean, I'm plugged in all the time, but sometimes it gets really intense. I'm like, wow, this is real. So yeah, that was one of my first little inklings that it was something that I wanted to do. And I don't know if this happened to you, Darlene, but sometimes kids from my high school will find me on Facebook and say, when we were doing track, that we were at this track meet, you said something to me that has stuck with me and has helped me for my entire life. And I'm like, what the hell? What could I have possibly said as a 15-year-old malcontent? Because all 15-year-olds are kind of like, screw everything. But apparently I said, but that's the thing. That's the mentor in me that just comes out. And
it's part of who you are. Because I haven't had somebody call me, like message me from from high school, but I remember being the person in high school who, if anybody had a question or had a problem or had a relationship issue or something was going on, they were like, Darlene, can we talk? Because I would be like that voice of reason, and I would ask them questions, and I would dig deep with them, and I would, support them and be that shoulder to cry on. And I'm super empathetic. And that was what they needed at the time. And I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know even what coaching was, even when I was in my 20s, let alone when I was in junior high and high school. But I think it's part of most coaches that I talk to, like they have those little pieces of story where they're like, oh, had we known what those signs were back when we were younger, we would have probably been doing the work that we do now a lot earlier.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny, another thing that happened to me that I didn't really put together was I kept getting gifted authority and being put in positions of leadership. I will never forget this. It was my freshman year in college, and I think it was like 2 weeks into the school year. So everybody's brand new. And somehow they identified me as the problem solver. And somebody said, can you go into Muffy's room? Her name was Muffy. It was the 80s.
You can't make that up, right?
Cannot make it up. Can you please go into Muffy's room? There's a bug in there and she's terrified. I'm like, first of all, there's so many questions I have. Who is Muffy? Number two, she has opposable thumbs and weighs over 100 pounds. How is a bug scaring her? And number three, why are you calling me? Why do you think that I can handle it? P.S. I did. I put the bug outside. But I'm like, how did they identify me? So I was always kind of curious about that. And it follows me everywhere, Darlene. If I'm in a Gap or some sort of like big box store somewhere, inevitably someone will approach me and ask me a question. Like, do you have this in another size? I'm like, why do you think I work here? This happens all the time.
It's funny that you said Gap, because that was one of the retail management stores I used to work at.
See, this is how it happens.
It is. I still, and it drives, like, people ask me all the time, oh, can you help me with this? And I'm like, do I look like I still work in retail management? Because I for sure don't. And I'm not even wearing the right clothes.
That's the thing. I'm like, I don't have the headset. Like, why do you think? But there's something about, there's something. Yeah. And I'm not trying to do it. And I consider it a funny gift that when people are in crisis or curious about something, and I have lots of stories like this, that they will find me. Yeah. And I'm looking over my shoulder, like, are you talking to me?
You just have that face that people go, this person knows what the heck they're doing in life, and we're going to follow them.
Well, I figured out how to monetize it and help a lot of people make peace with their past. So I am so grateful for this gift. And I love leveraging it. Well, as long as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. And go for it. That's part of your gift. So you might as well play to it, because it's going to happen regardless. Like it's already there.
Yeah, we're cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious. So you've had your business for a couple of years now. What would you say has been like the challengingest thing about starting your own business and going out on your own and doing this?
I would say not knowing anything. Just not knowing what the hell I'm doing. Because, I hired a coach and they were helpful, but they only know their little lane. Yeah. And then I hired another coach while I was with that coach who was just like not knowing where this is going and how to scale it, and making better use of my time. That was really hard. When I first started, I was I have a launch model, and it was a Facebook group launch model, and the amount of posting I was doing, the amount of tagging I was doing, this is before I had a VA. It was such a grind. It was more than 20% admin. It felt like exhaustion, because even though I loved sharing in the posting, I was doing, a video a day, and I would produce these videos, and they're not like little 2-minute things. Like, it's a workshop. It's like a little mini workshop, right? Yeah. So it was a ton of work, and there's nothing wrong with a ton of work, but there's something to be said for working smart. And when you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna work more than you need to be working, because you're learning. And I will never forget the moment I recognized, holy cow, if I don't do this launch model, I don't have any income. and I'm building a house I don't want to live in. This is not the life I want. Even if I mean, I can work from everywhere. I can work from anywhere, but I don't want to have to be in the Bahamas on my freaking computer.
Yeah. Responding and tagging and doing all the things, which
No.
I can totally relate to. I don't use social media a ton in my business anymore. That's a whole longer story about Facebook. Like I got hacked a year ago almost, and I lost all my accounts. And so I had to pivot really quickly because I was doing a lot of marketing, like you were sharing, like online, like tagging, going into groups, building relationships, doing videos in my Facebook group, all this stuff. And when I lost those, I like had that moment of panic, like crap, like a good chunk of my business was coming from those places that I was showing up and nurturing and building relationships with people in. And I'm like, and they're gone because it was my Facebook group, my page, my personal account, which I clicked the blue button and signed up for Instagram. So then I couldn't get into Instagram anymore. My Instagram account was closed and all those places. And so I pivoted and focused more on like Google and YouTube and then added Pinterest even to my strategy with my content that I've been creating. And I was like, oh, this is perfect for me because those 3 areas are search engines. People are going in there and typing their problem. And if it's the same thing that I can help them with, hopefully they find me, which has been working.
Right.
But so many people that I'm talking to, like, they're like, I'm doing all the things. I'm showing up in all these places and I'm exhausted and I'm worn out. And so I love that you were mentioning that those things were tiring. Have you found a way to kind of feel like you've got it under control now?
Yeah. In fact, that was one of the things that's what actually I was referring to. And I think I said my business is moving really quickly. So when I realized, nope, this isn't the life I want. I mean, I'm really glad that I'm making 5 figures a month, but I want to make 6 figures a month and work about 50% less.
Yeah.
So I figured out how to, and it took me a couple of years. The effortless enrollment program I mentioned, it needs to be road tested. I only care about results. And so I guess I should say, I want to make 6 figures, work 50% less, and get phenomenal results for my clients. That's the reality that I have. And in order to do that, I needed a couple of years to really road test and play around with the process, the system of effortless enrollment and all of the things that need to be in place in order to create that flow where by the end of it, it's like, it's momentum. Like you don't have to do a sales call. You just do an enrollment call and that's it. So once I figured out, thank goodness I have a very left brain. I'm a tactician, very logical and quite skeptical, by the way. So it's very strange for me to be so spiritually bound, so spiritually oriented, and yet very like clinically minded, which is that's the neuro facilitation piece. So I call myself a practical mystic for that reason. And mysticism to me, science is the new language of mysticism. I think Dr. Joe Dispenza said that. And I went to one of his retreats and I was really impressed with the results I got. So I figured out how to create an evergreen approach that gets results and phenomenal results with really difficult, sticky, I should say very deeply held root belief systems. I figured out how to uproot them and give them support and ask the right questions to get them to flip their mindsets very, very quickly so that they can start raising their prices, getting more clients, getting on the money go round is what I call it. So I found a way to do that with Evergreen. And now, as we speak, I'm on the hunt for an ops manager. And that's
Amazing.
the key. I'm so excited. It's going to be my first really big hire. I mean, I've got a team, I've got tech, I've got VA, but this is going to be my first salary plus profit sharing. I've always wanted to be the CEO that's like, listen, if I'm making money, we're making money.
Yes.
I want you to have nothing incentivizes people more than that.
Yeah. And that's the perfect business model for coaches because you're bringing somebody else in who's probably a little bit entrepreneurial spirited as well. And the more they show up for you in the business, they get a piece of the pie at the end. And who doesn't want that? Corporate America would do a heck of a lot better if they would actually incentivize their employees and give them a piece of the actual profits instead of, their little salary. And then they're required to be there 40 plus hours a week, probably 60 hours a week. and then they get, you know, a vacation check a couple of times a year and like, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, if they were all stockholders, this world would look very different. Like I have two terrifying ideas that would take that would change everything. One of them is this, which you just said, that every person who comes in gets stock.
Yeah.
They get their salary plus stock
Yeah.
because the salaries are too low.
Yeah.
They just are. I remember in the 80s when I was looking for work, and they have not changed that much.
Yeah.
But everything else is more expensive. So
everything.
So if you don't want to pay people, you keep pace with the cost of living, then this is the other way to incentivize them. And all salaries are published on the internal website. Everybody knows what everybody's making, all the bonuses, and everybody sees the resumes, the amount of experience. It's all completely transparent.
Yeah.
The tyranny of transparency will prevent inequality.
Oh, absolutely. You made me, I kind of giggled for a second there because it made me think of when I was in retail management, and the employees would be so jealous if the other employee was making 50 cents more than them, or I'm like, they have the experience. Like, you can do it too. Like, show me that you can do it. I'm happy to give them all raises, but you're right. Like, but back then it was like, don't tell anybody how much you're making. And then they would inevitably always, like, you know, talk about it. And I always laughed. I'm like, all you have to do is come to us. Let's get it up there. But yeah, if everybody just knew, it would take out half of that like pressure and competition that comes in that area in the corporate world. But the fact that you're going to bring your employee in and she's going to be a part of the profit sharing, that's huge. And I might have some connections for you. So remind me afterwards. I know a couple people.
I will totally take you up on that. I've got my application is, well, we'll just say it's quite robust. I am looking for a rock star, and it's a rock star who wants to move into a growth opportunity. And that's how I'm going to recruit them.
Yeah.
Because they love what they're doing. They're amazing at it, but they've got a ceiling. There's no ceiling with me.
Yeah. Love it.
I know I'm going to find the right person.
Yeah,
I know we've already found each other. I'm just watching it unfold.
Yes.
Woohoo!
Love it. Beautiful. Well, as we start to wrap up our conversation today, I always like to do some rapid fire questions with my guests just to get some quick answers out of you.
Let's do it.
See what you're up to, because it's more of just because I'm nosy and I like to know things. So do you have a morning routine? And if so, what is it?
Yes, I do. I get up somewhere between 5:30 and 6, and I have a practice that is called Pambinaan. It is a power maintenance practice from a very rare martial art called Merpati Putti. So I do this power maintenance to keep my body very healthy. And then I do usually 20 to 30 minutes of some sort of like martial arts forms, or I go for a run or do some stairs and do a little rehab, get my daughter to school. So, within the Pambinaan is a meditation. So it's the thing at the end of the practice. So there's always a deeply spiritual and very challenging practice in the morning that sets my intention for the day, and then I meditate and align and get calibrated with source before I do anything.
Yeah, awesome. Are you binge watching anything on TV right now or on Netflix?
I just binged watch The Queen's Gambit.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
It was delicious. I couldn't stop. I'm like, I have a problem. I have a Queen's Gambit problem. I couldn't stop watching it. Yes, I binged the heck out of it. Yes.
And I don't know if they're making any more of that one. I didn't feel like they didn't really leave it open for another season.
I know. I was like, I don't end it. Don't let it end. So yeah, that was the last thing I binge watched.
Awesome. And do you have any books on your nightstand right now that you're reading?
Oh my gosh. Yes. I have a couple. I'm reading I'm trying to remember exactly. It's the Hermetic Principles. It's ancient wisdom as taught by Thoth in the Egyptian days. It's fascinating stuff. It's like mystic and like earthbound, like educate medicine and science. It's amazing. And what's the other thing that I'm reading right now? I've got a couple. They're just, I have them scattered all around. So that one, and of course, I read and reread Power versus Force, which is Dr. David Hawkins. His books are mind-blowing if you're ready for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. I'm going to have to check out some of those because I have not heard of all of them. And when you need to recharge and just reset yourself, what do you like to do? Where do you like to go?
I retreat very frequently to make sure that I have the energy to bring to my clients and my work. One of my favorite things to do to recharge is to take as much time as I need to move my body. Like I can exercise because I have this whole rehab routine that I used to teach as a mind body master instructor, and it's a black hole. It is a easily 4 or 5 hour affair. So like my perfect day is to have nothing to do. I don't go outside usually. Even it's beautiful. I live in Seattle. I'm surrounded by like primordial forests.
Yeah.
And I do love the forest, but I love not having anything to do. I love having a cup of coffee, starting the day with reading, then like prehab, rehab, just all the stretches and yoga and the martial arts and the thing for hours, and then meditate for an hour, just that stuff. I love it. Yeah.
It sounds heavenly. And if you're like, there's no better way to connect than just getting in touch with with yourself again and grounding yourself and connecting in that way.
Absolutely.
All right. 2 more questions. Second to last question. Who has been the biggest influencer in your life?
That's such a good question. You know, I don't have a lot of mentors other than my coaches. I mean, Daniel,
it could be a person, even like just somebody.
Yeah, I'd say there's a handful of people. Number one, Danielle Leslie, who is my current coach. When I saw what she was doing, I was so impressed by her. I watched her do $1 million launch. I was part of it. And I was just like, damn, like she is unstoppable. Yeah. I wanted to have proximity to her. She inspired me so much. And so I'm, like I said, I'm in her program. So she really influenced me. My daughter teaches me where I'm making choices to be reactive. She shows me all the time where I'm choosing to be irritated or impatient. And I'm able to see, if it weren't for her, I wouldn't have that data, because kids can annoy you in a very special way.
Yes, they can.
Yes, they can. There's such a unique factor there. And she has been part of my spiritual growth in a way that I never knew was possible. And I have a soulmate who I met 2 years ago at the Dr. Joe Dispenza conference. And I did not want to meet anybody. In fact, I had basically sworn off relationships for at least a decade, because I'd been since 19 married, and like then in monogamous, like long-term relationships. I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to do my business. I'm going to raise my daughter. I'm going to be the rock star that I know myself to be. And I cannot be paying attention to any men. I'm done. I met him like a month later, and I'm like, come on. And he had to convince me. I was not an easy sell, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about him and the influence that he has on me is, well, one, he and his brother are the ones that brought this Merpati Putih martial art to the United States. They're the only non-Indonesians doing this. And his power, his chi, his spiritual presence is so wondrous to me. He has taught me how to surrender and receive love. Mm-hmm. And that was a very powerful lesson for me that I needed to learn, that I had asked the universe for, but I didn't know it was going to come as a human loving me. I thought it was just, I thought it was going to be like a spiritual meditation thing. Nope, it's a man. So
that is so beautiful. Like the surrender and receive love. I love how you said that.
He taught me how to do that. Well, he gave me the option, and I accepted and received, and my life has changed dramatically since I made the decision to receive his love. So
Yeah.
he's very powerful in my life.
Amazing.
Thank you.
And my last question for you, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
Right now, because this question has about 50 answers.
Yep, just the one.
Just the one, just the very top of my list. I will be going, as soon as COVID has loosened its grip on the restrictions, I have a dream, which has already happened. So it's in process of taking my daughter to Atlantis so she can swim with dolphins, so I can give her that memory. And I'm bringing my soulmate, and part of the place I want to go, the reason I want to go there is it's hella expensive. It's ridiculous. And I will be making so much money that this evergreen, my ops manager, is going to create such an avalanche of success that it won't even be a blip on my radar to drop $2,000 a night and to fly me and my soulmate, my daughter, to this place. So it's not just the place and giving my daughter this experience. It's the business success, the abundance that's going to support it. Because I could go right now. I could spend the money and go right now, but that's not what I want.
Yeah.
I want to go when my business has just boomed to the point where I'm just like, you know what? It's time. It's time
taken off.
Taken off. And I won't even notice. And because I'm working half time, I won't be on my computer while I'm in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So that's
exactly.
it.
I love it. Perfect. I'm going to go with you. I'm going to add myself to your suitcase.
Get in here. Bring the whole family. I know your kids would love it.
It sounds perfect, especially swimming with dolphins. My high school, I had my oldest son my senior year, or I had him right after my senior year of high school. I was pregnant my senior year. But before that, I was like, I'm going to go to San Diego University. I'm going to swim with Shamu. Like, I had this dream. I was like, I'm going to swim with like these crazy marine life animals. And then my plans got a little bit rearranged when I had my son, but I have yet to swim with Shamu. And now I don't necessarily want to. I've decided that might not be such a great idea, but dolphins, I could totally get on board with.
Yeah, it's a really lovely experience for them. They're in a cove. They're playful anyway.
Yeah.
And they have it so that, and I just know my daughter, she's Native American. I adopted her when she was 2.5. So she's Native American and Samoan. So this whole like connection with nature is so strong in her.
Yeah.
So this is going to be a memory. I'm so excited to give her this experience and give me the experience of being able to provide it. And being a provider at that level is just not something I've ever seen in my family. Like, it's so exciting.
It sounds like it. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. Let me know when it's happening.
I will.
Maura, it's been so fun having you on the show. Thank you so much. I know people are going to want to connect with you. Where should they go?
There's a couple places. My website is mytransformationalcoach.com. My email is on there. info@SoulfulLeader is on there. And you can also find me at Soulful Leader, and that's Soulfuleader. So the end of soulful is the L for the beginning of leader. Okay. That's my Instagram handle. And every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. PDT, I host a show called the Free Lunch Live. And the first person to drop a question in the chat gets intuitive coaching from me. And I can't even tell you how many clients have come from that. I don't do it like, it's not why I started it. It's like going for a sprint. It's like running stairs as a coach, because you don't know who they are. You don't know what ethnicity or gender. They just drop a question and then you just into it. And it's so much fun. It's like going for a sprint. And I would love to see your community on Instagram and give them any reflection that they need.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. We'll make sure the links are below. And I know you have a free gift for everyone if you want to tell us about that.
I do. So I learned over the course of 2 years in building my 6-figure business I had to flip a traditional business model on its head. So traditional business models called cause and effect business model. And the way I've been doing it is what I'm calling cause and effect business model, where the foundation of your value and your why and your passion and all of the visualization of what you want to do, that's actually the foundation of your business. And it creates the inspired action and so forth. So I have that all broken down on my website. It's mytransformationalcoach.com/effortless. I would love for them to get that and see if that business model works for them.
Perfect. That will be in the show notes below as well. Maura, thank you so much for being here. So amazing talking to you and hearing your story. And I can't wait to connect and stay in touch and see how things transpire.
Thank you so much, Darlene. It's been my pleasure to speak with you. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody, that's another wrap of the Attract and Stand Out podcast. Remember, you're allowed to stand out, you're allowed to shine, and you're allowed to be you. I'll see you next week.